Hello, this is Eleni. Welcome to Eleni's Tribe. Today we're going to be discussing finding joy with Kimberly Joy Rummage. She's a doctor of physical therapy, a certified fitness and nutrition coach, and the founder of Kimberly Joy Fitness. Kimberly, welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited to have you here. So, talk to us about finding joy and prioritizing fitness.
Okay, so I obviously have Joy in my middle name. My parents gave that to me because they were so happy to have a little girl, and I've kind of had that bounce ever since. But I love finding joy every day. I love just to laugh and make sure, or even I get a good belly laugh in every day because it is so healthy for us and it just feels good. So really love the idea of helping women find that joy, because when you find that joy, here's what God told me, that I'm fearless when I'm joyful and that I can step through anything when I'm joyful. And so you think about when you have been joyful or really happy, just that deep joy, you realize you feel fearful and fearless, I should say. I should say not fearful, fearless. You feel fearless when you're joyful. And so you just feel like you can step forward and really do more and see all the gratitude that God has given you. And so I just love helping women kind of find that. And in that, taking the time to be joyful in being healthy, because a lot of us don't, as women, like to serve everybody but ourselves. And we feel a lot of times we're selfish when we are doing all of this, taking time for ourselves. So we just want to give, give, give to everybody. And then there's nothing left over for us. And so I'm really teaching women to find some time to take care of themselves, because then they can totally serve the way God designed them to serve when they are joyful and taking that time for themselves to be healthy so that they have the right energy and force at their full capacity to serve others. Yes.
Okay, so Kimberly, I totally agree with you. As women, we are always pouring out, we are always giving, but a lot of times we don't stop long enough to refill our cup.
True. And that is where we work as a team to really help women think through how they can take that time for themselves. It doesn't mean it has to be a lot of time, but when we take a small amount of time, we find actually we're more productive in the rest of the time. So it sounds counterintuitive. If I take time for myself, I won't have time to get everything done. Actually, you'll be more effective and more efficient in those other activities when you take the time for yourself, because you now have a healthier aspect and energy and you are more productive. So it's counterintuitive at first, but then when women really click in on this, they realize, oh my gosh, I'm so much more equipped now and I'm more efficient at what I'm doing because I'm not dragging myself. I'm not feeling drained, but I'm feeling energized the
Mhm.
way you were designed.
No, I agree with you. It does seem counterintuitive. It's like stop what I'm doing and do something else for myself that's supposed to be good for me, but I don't have the time. And then you push everything off to the side and you just focus on whatever it is you're doing in the moment. And then you're like, I'll get to it later, whatever that thing is. You're right.
Mhm.
It totally sounds counterintuitive. Can you kind of give an example of what you mean by taking the time makes the time for you to be better at whatever it was that you're doing?
Okay, so one idea is that I take a few minutes every morning and I have some gratitude, because one, it sets my mindset into the right thing. So I'm praying, and that I'm starting with gratitude, because that's the first thing before I even ask for anything. I'm starting with that gratitude. It's reshifting my mind and it's preparing me better for the day. And I definitely have a better day and I can handle more because I've started into that gratitude. It doesn't mean you're spending hours at the Bible in the morning and everything. It can just be a short amount of time. We don't always have that time, and there's different seasons in our life, and we can be
Right.
okay with that. But taking a few minutes to start your day that way, not looking at your phone, not looking at, your Instagram or social media, but really focusing in on that gratitude the first thing in the morning really can change that day. And it didn't take that much time. And you will see a lot of times we have more time in our day than we realize. We just didn't prioritize correctly. So taking a few minutes just to prioritize three things you want done that day, three priorities, not to get overwhelmed, but just taking
Right.
three priorities to say that's what I'm going to focus on really. I mean, a lot of times I still am getting 15 things done, but I made sure I got those three that I prioritized. And that really has been helpful in making sure that I'm taking care of myself, because usually one of those priorities is something like a workout or, making sure I'm eating a healthy, nutritious lunch and dinner, so forth, that type of an idea.
Okay, I love that. I love the idea of starting your day off with gratitude. I've been using the Abide app. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, and this isn't a plug. I just happen to use it, and it gives you like a scripture every day, and you get to choose whether you're going to listen 2 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and you just whatever. So from one
Mhm.
day to the next, it can change. So for me, it really sets a different tone, and I feel much better about myself, and I have a better focus if I start off with that scripture and that reading, and there's like background music and there's like thoughts that are intertwined with the scripture, and it's a devotional and a prayer, and I just love that. I love what you said about gratitude, and I know you and Scott and I have talked about gratitude before. uh I like your like gratitude intentions. I know this is kind of off topic, but not. I really would love for you to share that, because that is, I love it. I mean, and I want a refresher myself, because I want to really start putting that into place. And my scripture this morning was actually about making a joyful noise to the Lord and giving him songs of praise. And it doesn't necessarily mean literally singing to him. It
Mhm.
means thoughts in your mind, the words that come out of your mouth, and the attitude of your heart. So I just love that you said that. So yeah, I would love to hear more about the gratitude intentions that you have in the morning.
Well, and gratitude helps reshape us into the right focus. Okay. So I love when Jordan Peterson talks about anxiety. So, anxiety, one of the best ways to reduce anxiety is when we step out of thinking about ourselves. Okay. So, you think about like when you go to a party, if you're anxious, right? About, I don't know if people are going to like me. I don't know if it's going to work. That's because you're thinking about yourself. If all you focus in on is how I'm going to make somebody else comfortable at the party, your anxiety will come down. Okay. So that whole thought process of if I start my day with gratitude, I am taking myself out and I am focusing on the other. And then it's changing that perspective. And therefore, I'm going to have that release of anxious thoughts. I'm going to have that release of all these different things that are kind of happening and reshifting my mind into the right focus. So, um, it just is amazing the days that I don't take that time and accidentally get that not set, that it really does make a difference in how I handle things that come at me during the day.
Oh my gosh. So do you guys actually have a list of things that you add like gratitudes to, and you read them, or you just, is it
I just start with small things and I move to big things. And I literally set a timer. And
okay?
so it's a timer and it's like anything and everything. And I cannot move on to that until and so what happens is you can keep pushing that timer out farther and farther, but you start literally with like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, which sounds short, but it's a long time. And what happens is you're starting to thank God for the leaves on the trees and and the spiders that eat the mosquitoes or whatever, you're like,
Yeah,
because you're
attitude of
trying
gratitude.
to, you really are. And so, because you kind of go, yeah, I'm, thankful for my husband and my kids. And then all of a sudden you're like, and so you have to start really diving deep. And so then once you start playing that game, both Scott and I will talk, my husband and I will talk about it. Like, then you start you realize how many things you can be grateful for. And then you're like, I can talk 3 minutes non-straight, or I can talk 5 minutes now non-straight about, you know, the gratitude and what I'm thankful for. Man, that's really powerful.
No, it does. I think if you start from that mindset, it really does set the tone for your day versus
Mhm.
starting off your day saying it's going to be a bad day or whatever, right? I
Mhm.
think that's
Mhm.
a wonderful piece of advice. I love the idea of setting a timer. I'm going to start doing that. I'm probably going to start with 30 seconds.
Yeah, start with like a minute, 2 minutes. 2 minutes is like a really nice place to start because you
But
get through the big general stuff, right? And then you start getting specific, and then so it's enough time to push you into more specifics rather than the general. Like, you'd be like, oh, I'm really thankful for my daughter. And then I'm thankful that I have this podcast. But then all of a sudden you're like, and I'm thankful. And then all of a sudden you start to be thankful for maybe a specific trait that your daughter has, or specific, these different specific things, or thankful for this person that came into your life, and you're thankful for this relationship. And all of a sudden you start digging deeper, and it's very powerful.
I love that. And I know, I'm a breast cancer survivor. And the year that I got diagnosed, I was going through chemo, pretty crappy time in my life. But that Mother's Day, we were supposed to have a second child. We had lost him or her in this
Mm,
first trimester. And he or she was due on Mother's Day. So Mother's Day, even though I had a beautiful daughter that was a miracle baby, Mother's Day, like there were a couple of years after that happened that it was very fresh and it was really hard for me. But that particular Mother's Day, I decided, I'm flipping my perspective. I'm like, I'm going to do
mhm.
365 days of thankfulness. And I did every day, even though I was going through chemo, even though I was really sick and I really didn't know the long-term prognosis, which thank God I'm a walking miracle at this point. And I thank God for that. And I'm able to be here. Right. And
Right.
glory to his name. But yeah, I did that. It wasn't easy coming up with something every day, like for 365 days, but I did it. And it was like, it really does change your attitude. It really does change the way you think about your day. So I love the idea of starting off your day with gratitude. I love the idea of prioritizing 3 things for your day.
Mhm.
And so in the second part of this podcast, when we come back, I want us to move into um, finding the time, how not to
Mhm.
push it off, how to find the time, and then talking about selfishness versus self-care. So
Right.
this is Eleni. Join us for part 2.